after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put palms down. So it's funny, we had our ceremony on Saturday, the master, the monk from Sri Lanka, and then last Tuesday we had a speaker, Ben. So I haven't done this in like a whole week, so I hope I don't forget everything. I will do my best to lead you all appropriately. It's funny because for a while we had a class in Spanish, and then that stopped, and we have someone now who's interested in leading that again. So they just came downstairs and we chatted for a bit, and they said, I don't know how to lead meditation. I'm pretty new to Buddhism, and so I really don't have any experience at leading meditation or Buddhist teachings. And I said, perfect, you're hired. You don't really get hired, but what I wanted to share, and I'll just kind of say this before we sit, is that, often when you look at kind of Buddhist teachings and traditions and lineages, and, having a master or teacher often is very important. And kind of within the Dharma Bum world, we've also found it to be very beautiful to just have people who have a genuine practice and aren't necessarily looking to be a teacher or to have students, but just to really share their approach to Buddhist practice. And I find that very genuine and authentic approach to be really beautiful. I use Alex as an example. Many of you know Alex, who tells the Siddhartha story. He leads our loving kindness practice. He started our recovery sangha 8-9 years ago, and he had basically zero experience with Buddhist practice, and then started leading, and he's been at it for the last 10 years. And there's something about sharing meditation in Buddhism that's really beautiful. And the Buddha said the greatest gift that you can give to another is the gift of the Dharma, is to share the Buddhist teachings. But that's the greatest form of generosity that exists. So, and then I really reflect on that, and I recognize that, whether you're sitting in front of a group of people, whether you're hitting a bell, whether you're looking at a Buddhist text, or whether you're just standing in line at the grocery store, that all of those are moments to practice, to really share what we call the Dharma, which is the Buddhist teachings. So with that, I'm really just grateful that, it's taken a bit of time that somebody came forward and said they want to lead meditation and Buddhist discussion in Spanish, because I think it's really important. So That's also my plug to let all of you Spanish-speaking folks know that we're starting the Spanish-speaking group again. So if that works for you, I will not be leading that class. Would be a much class. So we'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are here for the first time, welcome. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working, is this not working, am I doing it right, am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds, people cough, phones ring. This is life, life is filled with chaos. This practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Don't judge it. We judge things all day long, what we look like, what we wear, what we eat, right? We're constantly in these judgment modes. And this practice, we just want to learn to abide in sensation of breath. Posture. If you're on the cushions, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, don't expect anything from this practice. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Gently guide the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return attention, focus to the breath. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet. Wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgment. Just sitting. Breathing. With the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. most important, with the practice of meditation, to recognize how you feel now, immediately after, compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now is quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind. Whatever you're sitting with at this moment has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, hold the hands, or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you, or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind, and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpatti, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being no different than anyone in this room who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what we realize from the practice of meditation is most people respond pretty quietly, pretty still. The question is, how do you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your lives? And so all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer. How you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape. It's direct perception into the present moment and being with things as they are. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do every moment of your life. That's the practice. We spend a lot of our time trying to change, control, fix everything outside of us. And this practice is learning to control your mind and your reaction to the world around you. And that's not easy. If we've been responding to certain things, certain ways for our entire life, changing that is difficult. We create these patterns and habitual behaviors that we just get stuck in. And so this practice is cutting through the story in your head that you tell yourself over and over and over again. That story leads to what you say and what you do. And if we go through our days and we're not finding a sense of calm and peace in our lives, then we begin to look at, why not? And often creating change in our lives is difficult. We get stuck in these patterns that are unhealthy and unhappy, yet we don't want to change them. And it's almost like that becomes more comfortable. Suffering is not fun, but it's what the Buddha said we all get. We all get to suffer. Yeah. Sign me up. And this practice is figuring out how to end, remove, itself is a pretty courageous journey to be able to look at yourself and ask yourself, why am I suffering? To be able to look at your own greed, your own anger, your own ignorance, and kind of be very real and honest with that, and explore that is, to me, that's the practice. You know, it's easy to hide and run from that. It's harder to look at it very genuinely. So this practice, if you're new to it, it's not the escape, it doesn't fix things. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, all meditation does is make you become aware of the crazy, hectic, stressed out mess that you've created. And then we begin to hopefully make changes throughout our day so things don't get so crazy and hectic and stressed out. One of my favorite expressions is an angry person who meditates is just an angry meditator. So this practice is about changing the things we do in our lives, not just sitting on a cushion. That's kind of that common phrase in Buddhism, you know, wherever you go, there you are. That mind that drives you crazy all day long, that's what you're stuck with. And that's the same mind that can make you happy and peaceful all day long, too. So, good luck with that. Rather just stop there and open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. We'll go from there.
I've kind of lost touch with the meditation. I used to do it really good, and I'd say about last spring, I went into a very deep depression, anxiety due to life circumstances. I lost 25 pounds, I had no desire. I got out of it, but not by any spiritual means. It was just real life activities, got me through. I'm okay now. I gained back the weight and then some. But in that process, when I was down in the dumps, I turned to prayer, meditation, to everything, and nothing worked. And I just suffered night after night for a couple of months. Now, life is fine. I'm back to kind of a regular rhythm, but I've had a spiritual disconnect. I felt abandoned by God, higher power, whatever you want to call it. And meditation kind of went in with the wash. And now when I try to do it, I feel nothing. That's why I come here. At least in a group, you're almost forced to sit for the 20 minutes. And I need that. At home, there's 101 reasons why I shouldn't meditate. So I don't know where to go with this.
Yeah, we strategically barricade that aisle that Al sits in so he can't run out when meditation starts. You know, you said a lot there, and I think, like you said, well, you didn't say this, but what I took from the end of it, it's not even a question, it's just kind of sharing your experience. And, you know, the part, and you know me, I never touched on this anyways, but, you know, as far as the feeling abandoned part, it's, you know, that's your kind of the I feel abandoned by God part. Like that's, you get to take that up with your God. Right? So I can't address that. The part about, you know, when I meditate, kind of nothing happens. Me too. When I meditate, nothing happens. But for me, that's beautiful. Because most of my day, too many things are happening. Way too many. And meditation is a time to just sit and allow nothing to happen. For me as a practitioner, I don't meditate to bring about some spiritual experience. And this is, as always, as much for anybody, not just Al who asked the question or comments. It's not about having some religious practice. It's not about having some deep spiritual awakening. You know, the magic, a lot of great teachers, Suzuki, Chogyam Trungpa, you know, talk about the magic is this. This is it. the sitting and the breathing, that's it. The conversations, that's it. The depression, that's it. The losing 25 pounds, that's it. The gaining the 25 pounds plus more, as you said. Like, that's just moment-to-moment experience of life. Again, to me, this isn't about some deep spiritual awakening. Waking up to things as they are, that is the deep spiritual awakening. And to you, what you were waking up to for a while was a lot of misery and depression. And guess what? You're here. Most people come here because they don't like sitting at home on their own, because of the 101 excuses they have to get up. You know? If all of you were at home right now from 7 to 7:20, how many of you would you be doing a meditation? You see any hands in this room? You know? There's reasons I'm sitting here. Right? Pretty sure the Cubs are on right now. I'd be watching the Cub game. Right? So, really the main point I think I'm trying to make with you is that I suggest abandoning the seated meditation practice, or abandon the idea of this Buddhism thing being some grand thing as some grand thing. The key part, and the Buddha called this the triple gem, and again, this is for everybody really. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha is the triple gem. The Buddha is the human himself. He lived, he died when he was 80. And he lived a very simple, peaceful, humble life after living a very wealthy, extravagant life. And the Dharma is the teachings that he left us. He said, here, I've taught you for 45 years. I've taught you about loving kindness and compassion and generosity and morality and patience. I've taught you these things. Put them into your life. But the third thing he said, which is the piece that so many people miss, is the Sangha. And that's the community. And I still think more than anything of the three, that's the most important. And so what I really take from what you said is, you're here for the community and the support of being around people that are going through a mess just like you are. You know? And often that's what gets us through it. Otherwise you'd be at home doing one of the 101 things. You know? So, yeah.
Thank
you. As usual, no question, no answer, so it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Remember a few months ago now, somebody said the force field. Even if I'm out in East County,
oh, yes.
the force field is
they
here,
refer to
and
the
I
song
can,
as the force field.
yeah, and
Yes.
if I'm watching the video thing, I can still get into the force field.
Yes.
And my cats can too. Because
Yes.
if you meditate at home, where's your cat want to be? In the force field.
I'm actually only sitting here so we can record this on YouTube for all the dogs and cats out there that couldn't get here on their own.
Yes.
It's like when people roam in the temple, downstairs, and they say our dog's welcome, and I'm like, they're preferred. It's the humans that are optional, right? Yeah, the force field, the Sangha, however we kind of interpret that in our lives, is there's reminders that help. And I find that that's one of the most beautiful parts of practice, is to be around a bunch of people who are absolutely a mess. And yet here we are. No offense to any of you who are not an absolute mess.
They just don't know it yet.
I know. I'm glad Laverne said it, not me. What she said, for the record, is you just don't know it yet. So I don't have to take that, I usually say something to the effect of, if you don't know that you're a mess, then you haven't really explored yourself deep enough yet, So, yeah. Other questions, thoughts?
one of the events that are coming up. One of the monks is doing a refuge.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've been reading something about a refuge vow.
Yeah, that's which is always a great question, but especially since I just briefly touched on the Triple Gem, the Buddha Dharma Sangha. So we have a Tibetan Lama coming Friday night and Saturday afternoon. And Saturday afternoon, he's going to close with the refuge ceremony. And often, it's cute because often, and this isn't the nature of your question, but just to back up a little bit, often people say, how do I become Buddhist? It's like they're running from one thing and they're running to the other. And, my master used to say, shaving your head and putting on a robe doesn't make you Buddhist. It's what's in your mind and in your heart. Really, that's what being Buddhist is about. And that Buddhism isn't, especially in a Western culture, we're so used to this kind of word to convert. I'm going to convert from this to that. And Buddhism, it's not about converting. Someone asked the Dalai Lama years ago, does this country, the U.S., need more Buddhists? And he said, the world has enough Buddhists. This country needs more people who are peaceful and happy. So, with all of that in mind, that's my typical response to how does one become Buddhist types of question. But, with that being said, there are very formal ritual practices of varying degrees, whether it's a refuge ceremony, whether it's a bodhisattva precept ceremony, whether it's ordination, of becoming a nun or a monk or whatever it might be in what tradition. And these are all, again, it's not a big part of the Dharma Bum world because we open the Dharma Bum world to kind of remove ourselves from a lot of the cultural barriers that I feel really kind of get in the way of understanding the essence of Buddhist teachings. But with that being said, personally, I think those rituals are really beautiful and really important. And the vows that are taken behind them are really important, right? I'll get to your question eventually, but there's like 5 precept ceremony, right? Where you can take the precepts and lie, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, and no intoxicants, right? Nothing to alter the state of mind. So we did a precept ceremony years ago down the temple. And like 2 days later, it might have even been the next day, I'm giving him a break here, but like 2 days later, Ken showed up, different Ken than many of you know, and he said, I think I broke all the 5 precepts the next day, right? But his vow was to take those precepts. And the Buddha's teaching, those vows are with you life after life after life, moment after moment after moment. So the vows and the intention behind them are also really critical. Abiding by them and living by them also help. So when it comes to the taking of refuge, it's a formal ceremony where one takes refuge in the Triple Gem. Refuge being safety, comfort, protection, whatever that word refuge means to you. And then in the Buddha, and to expand on that a little bit, it's not the Buddha himself, right? You're not taking refuge in him. You're taking refuge in what's called Buddha nature, bodhicitta. The Buddha was a human being. To my knowledge, all of us are human beings. He suffered. He figured out how to end his suffering. He woke up, he ate, he slept, he went to the bathroom, just like us. Right? So we take refuge in knowing that Buddha nature, bodhicitta, lies within all of us. And that we too can awaken. So for me as a practitioner, I find great safety, comfort, and protection knowing that this guy, Siddhartha Gautama, who was near death, figured out how to end his suffering, that I too could figure out how to end my suffering. That's a peaceful thought. Second thing is in the Dharma, we take refuge in the Dharma, and that's the teachings, ultimate truth. To me, the greatest, I think, view I've learned over the years about taking refuge in the Dharma is instead of trying to figure out what is actual ultimate truth, is learning to understand that whatever my perception of reality is not correct. That, for me as a practitioner, has been one of the most liberating things, right? Doesn't mean I won't still argue or try to prove that my view is right, right? But ultimately, I know that whatever perception or view that I have, it's just, I'm stuck with that. And I work to transform and come out of any attachment to views I may have. Because that's where the suffering lies, is our attachment to views and wanting the world to be the way we want it to be. Right? So we take refuge in the Dharma, that there is the true nature of reality, And then we take refuge in the Sangha, and that's a little bit what I was talking about, is safety, comfort, peace, protection, and other people who are also working on kind of their journey, their path. And, each refuge ceremony, depending upon the master that does it from different lineages, is different, right? You have a Zen master do it, you have a Theravada master do it, you have a Tibetan Lama do it. They're all going to be different. If nothing else, it's a really cool experience. It's kind of like for those who were here Saturday watching the Sri Lankan masters bless the statue. It's just a cool thing.
It was.
Right? I mean,
It really was.
it's just a cool thing to observe and witness and be a part of that has very deep meaning to those who are doing it or to those that are really on that level understand it. From an outsider's perspective, if you're new to it, it's really cool to just observe and be a part of. And I view refuge ceremonies the same way. Whether you wholeheartedly take refuge or whether you partially take refuge or whether you sit in the back corner and explore what it looks like for somebody who's taking refuge. It's a cool thing. So that's what it means to take refuge.
Cool.
Yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about the person who's coming on Friday?
Not really. And also not really because the person who's coming in Friday switched. So it was one Tibetan Lama, and then I got an email about 5 days ago saying that his visa he was having trouble with visa status, or the visa because of travel. And so they're sending a different Lama. And I joked with Travis and I said, do I really need to update the flyer? To most people, it's a Tibetan Lama, and that's all you need to know. Right? One Lama, another Lama, it's a great Lama. But I did eventually put up the new flyer with the new photo of the different Lama. But if you look on the door on the way out, it's a cool photo because one is him looking like, you can see the front. The other, and this is from their webpage, the other is a picture of him. Well, I'll ruin it so that way you actually go see it. It's actually him from behind, and he's kind of like rubbing noses with an actual llama. Like an animal llama. So it's a llama and a llama having a very special moment. Yeah. But Tibetan Buddhism, which I've studied the least and know the least about, is beautiful. It's fascinating. It's loud. It's colorful. It's funny. We've had so many great Tibetan lamas here over the years in downtown teach, and they're all incredible. They're so genuine and real with their practice. They're so honest and sincere. They're so diligent and dedicated. They're so their heart just pours, as I think all Buddhist monks and nuns and lamas are the same. Their heart just pours in. It's their life, So for us, you have your whole life, and then you carve out a couple hours a week to come do your Buddhist thing, right? That Buddhist thing that we all try to work into our lives a little bit, that is every moment of their entire life. That's what they live. And that always comes through,
So no movie night Friday night?
No movie night Friday night, yeah.
Somebody was asking me about somebody who doesn't go to temple and isn't in any way Buddhist, was asking me about the significance of the Dalai Lama and the different lamas that they had heard of, like Thich Nhat Hanh, or anyway, they asked me a question and I realized I couldn't answer their question at all about the significance of the word lama and then the significance of people Thich Nhat Hanh within their own branch of Buddhism. If you could describe it that way, I wish I could even say I know that much.
So Dalai Lama, his name literally means ocean of wisdom. It's a pretty cool name. It's a lot of wisdom, Imagine having all the wisdom that a as large as the oceans, Lama, they're teachers. And so the Dalai Lama specifically is the religious, spiritual, and political leader of Tibet. And so there's a whole lineage within Tibetan Buddhism. Let me start by saying it's going to be nearly impossible for you with limited knowledge, and you know me, I'm just candid. You have limited knowledge of Buddhism and you want to try to explain it to someone who has no knowledge of Buddhism.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm still going to give you some
100%.
things, and then you can decipher from that,
Yeah.
A short answer is they're just really great Buddhist teachers from different countries. I'd go with that answer, right, for your friend. But the other way to look at it is Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism has 4 schools, major schools, and within those schools you have different teachers, and they teach different branches of Buddhism. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and he is obviously very famous in this country and all over the world for the work that he's done with social justice, with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize. Back during that time, Thich Nhat Hanh has really kind of coined the phrase engaged Buddhism, which is about engaging in the world. I often think that, especially for people who are new to Buddhism, from the West, we think that Buddhists are like those people in the roads who hide out like in caves and under trees. And there is a portion of Buddhism that is that. But then there's really what I would look at as modern engaged Buddhism, where you're taking, imagine if everyone in this country brought nothing but loving kindness into their day. That's critical. If everyone in this country brought nothing but forgiveness into their day, that's huge, right? And so Thich Nhat Hanh is really based on his work, his books, his ability to bring Buddhism into a Western audience. Having Plum Village in France and Deer Park here in San Diego, they're just very famous Buddhist teachers over the last 50 years. They're brilliant. But as they'll basically tell you, and I've read this in various ways, they're just simple monks. That's the biggest thing to me that's most inspiring about people like Thich Nhat Hanh or Dalai Lama or anyone at that we look at that caliber. They're no different than anybody in this room. And they're no different than Siddhartha Gautama is, who became the Buddha. They just work really, really hard at being really, really nice. To the point where maybe they don't even have to work at it anymore. So, but I still default to they're great Buddhist teachers from different countries. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? I think then that's back to the question about the Lama coming Friday and Saturday. That's the thing that I find most powerful about sitting with people like that, is when you can kind of break through this barrier of like, I am just me and they are these grand Buddhist lamas or masters or teachers, and recognize that they are you, and you can see through the robes and the, kind of the image, and recognize that they have family, they have friends, they have disagreements, they get hungry, they probably get frustrated, they cry, potentially. I can't speak for any one of them, but when you begin to see that they're no different than you are, that's where I find that just such a grand appreciation and admiration for, the diligence that they have on this path. We're stoked when we can meditate for 20 minutes a day, and you should be.
in time, you're gonna have the Spanish.
Don't know yet.
As somebody that's completely new to this, what's
Yeah.
what's a good way to get started on just embarking on like this?
Yeah, you just did. And unfortunately, it's more of the exact same thing you just did. Over and over and over again for the rest of your entire life. Right? It's looking at kind of the core basic teachings of Buddhism, understanding that every day we struggle. We struggle because of our pride, our ego, our greed, our anger, our ignorance. And learning to apply that in your everyday life. Learning to practice generosity, morality, patience, every day of your life. You know, I call this Intro to Buddhism, and I have for probably 10 years, and you know, if I'm alive for another 30, I'll probably be still sitting here Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings calling this Intro to Buddhism. I don't look at Buddhism as like this next level thing, right? I look at it as doing the same thing over and over and over again, because it's so hard to be nice to people, you know, right? It's the basics. It's everything that somebody probably taught you when you were 5 years old. San Diego, we're fortunate. We have so many Buddhist communities. There's probably 30 temples within like 10 miles of here. It's finding a place to practice and learn about Buddhism, meditation, where you're comfortable, you feel like you kind of fit, you feel like you can learn something. Here we have different, which I say this at the end, but we have different classes every night. All of us who lead are very different. Some people love me, some people don't like me. Some people love Alex, some people don't like Alex. Actually, most people like Alex, but it's understanding that different ways to share and learn about Buddhist practice and seeing where you can settle. It's going home and pulling up Google and Googling the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path and looking at the basic Buddhist teachings. It's picking up a couple of Buddhist books. We got a library about 10 steps from you. Close your eyes, grab anyone off the shelf, and you'll probably be all right. And repeat. Yeah. The challenge, not just for you, but for anyone who might be new, is to think that often I'll kind of close with this thought. Over the years, I've had people say to me oh, I've heard you talk about the Four Noble Truths so many times. And I'm tired of hearing about the Four Noble Truths. And my response to them always is, well, if you've heard the Four Noble Truths and you're tired of hearing the Four Noble Truths, then you don't understand the Four Noble Truths at all. Right? The Bodhisattva path, the Bodhisattva practice is to practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. So if you are one, and I know none of you in this room, but if you are one who thinks you understand this path and this practice, then you realize this isn't for you anyways. You're actually here for the person next to you, in front of you, behind you, in traffic right now, sitting at Starbucks waiting to get their coffee, angry. We practice, as we say with our college group, for the benefit of others. Right? And we always have an opportunity to practice that for the benefit of others. And the Four Noble Truths are so simple. Suffering, cause of suffering, ending of suffering, and the path. That's it. But they're so hard to put into our daily life. And we struggle with them daily. So, yeah.
Can I add to what you were just saying?
Yeah, please.
To the question she was asking about when you're new to the practice, I started listening a lot to Deepak Chopra. He has a lot of guided meditations, and on YouTube they're free.
Yes.
By Pandora, I just made a Deepak Chopra channel and just listen. Some are guided, some are just music. And then the free app called Insight Timer is one of my absolute favorites, and I would recommend that for anybody just starting out. Because if you're not used to sitting for 20 minutes, that you can choose a
3 to 5 minute or 1 minute, and depending upon what your mood is and kind of what your needs are, what your focus or you want to focus on, it allows you so many different free opportunities to explore. You know, do you prefer a male voice versus female? You know, are you looking for something in the morning versus night? I would definitely recommend those two to anybody who's just starting out on the, not the Buddhist teaching side, but on the learning meditation and learning how to sit.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. I should have just deferred to you for an answer. Next time. Oh, now I know. Note to self. Yeah, it's it can be confusing, you know, when you're first starting out. It can be overwhelming, kind of where to go, what to turn to, and eventually you stumble upon, like you have, things that you're comfortable with. And you know, the more we're comfortable with a style and approach and a person leading or a place, the easier it is to kind of stay motivated. And that's why I always encourage people to kind of try different types and styles and ways of meditation and Buddhist practice and see what resonates with you. You know, and then ultimately it comes down to the thing that is often the most difficult for us is then we just have to be diligent and practice it. You know, so I wish it was like a quick, you know, here, just read page 7 on this book and you'll be done, but that's tough. So, all right, so we'll close with that. We'll join palms. And the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Max during his time of healing and to his family who suffer at this time. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering.